Tasnuva, Shelley. I'm a Supreme Court advocate. I've been in this profession for about 18 years. However, in the last few years, I've really focused on the startups and helping them, nurturing them become successful. Because as we know, not all startups do succeed. There's like 90% of them fail because they're not aware of many things, funding and planning, compliance requirements, intellectual property requirements. When they're asking for funds or investors, the first questions they're asked is like, do you have IP? Because you're saying it's a unique idea, there's innovation. So in order to, make them aware, what's the value of their creativity, so that they feel encouraged to innovate. And I do mentor a lot of startups, and impact startups is another buzzword that we hear recently. It's basically all the startups that are focused not on commercial products or services, but rather helping the environment and our climate, which is something I think ওদের actually একটা extra focus দরকার ছিল, because they don't get the right attention. And অনেকে এখনই জিজ্ঞেস করতে থাকে যে do they have ESG policy, startup থেকে. I'm like, ESG policy asking for a startup যাদের এখন হয়তো trade license ও নাই. So, but they need to be aware of this if they want to be competitive and if they want to carry on their startups. So I hope after these discussions, a lot of things will be discussed and clarified, because if we consider Bangladesh perspective, আমাদের regulatory legal compliance is not as good internationally যদি আমরা compare করি. But if you want our startups to succeed, and especially give a focus on the impact startups, we actually need to think beyond the standards that's required in our country. So I hope ekhane shobai after this session will be motivated to go beyond the minimum requirement that we have in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abu. The other panelists, if you could first introduce yourself, and then of course we'll get to some of the questions. I would like to go to Asif. If you could just introduce yourself.
Very quickly, so my name is Asif Ahmed. I'm an assistant professor and a director of the graduate business program at ULab. However, I call myself an accidental academician, so I've been in academia for 10 years, but I've been mentoring young entrepreneurs since 1997, 1998 actually, and currently work for Cherry Blair Foundation to mentor young women entrepreneurs across the world. And in Bangladesh, I work with kind of multiple donors to really mentor young entrepreneurs both in the Cox's Bazar region as well as in the other part of the Bangladesh basically. So I've been doing it for almost more than 2 decades now, and it's been a great experience, particularly for women entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to come to Shahana first.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shahana Sharmin. Currently, I'm working with IDE Bangladesh. I'm managing 2 flagship projects. One is called Bamboo for Climate Action, funded by STC. Another is the Restoration Factory Program, funded by UNEP and Bishop Billions. Aside that, I have approximately 23 years of experience in this trade. I started with private sector, payment, telecoms, banking, all of that, and then I moved to the development sector with BRAC and many other organizations, and then I moved to IDE. It's something very unique experience. So when you start with the private sector, you get the private sector understanding how it functions, then you go to the development sector and you try and understand how that functions, and then I join IDE. Now IDE is not like any other usual NGOs. This is one of the international NGO that functions in kind of a blended model. It works towards building enterprise models. It works towards making more entrepreneurs out of our mass public and hard to reach people and all that in the framework where private sector works. So it's a blend of all of this. That kind of is an interesting shift for me, with private and development and coming in between the semi and trying to do help to others. Aside to that, I have been working with the startup ecosystem since 2014, when the whole hype started in the country. And I have been actively participating for all sorts of youth development, all sorts of tech-based startups, and any kind of startups that came through. Today, sitting and seeing these young stars developing their ideas to business, it's quite overwhelming and proudly feeling kind of a thing. The way it used to be back then and the way it is now is a vast difference. Definitely there are gaps, but I think we have come a long way and we can do much better provided everything is properly provided and structured way. So I look forward to contributing to this today. Thank you, Fahim, and thank you, the Sustain Labs, for inviting me for this. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Abu. Ashfaque?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. Firstly, I'm very humbled to be on the same panel with such esteemed speakers. Quick introduction about me. My name is Ashfaque Kabir. I'm currently the private sector coordinator for Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN, a Swiss foundation working for health, nutrition, healthy diet, and food system transformation. I started my career in investment banking in the US, in the financial industry. I returned to Bangladesh, worked for Standard Chartered Bank, and then their global headquarters in London. So 6-7 years in the financial industry, then I transitioned to development sector to work for youth skills development and education, and then sort of got swayed by the startup hype and started working with startups, tech firms. And at GAIN, I'm in my role, I'm working with SMEs as well as startups, predominantly agri-tech startups, startups in the agriculture sector, in the food transformation wing. So looking forward to contribute. Thank you for inviting.
Thank you so much, Pat. And lastly, Sumi.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. This is Sumi, Senior Private Sector Specialist at the World Bank. I have a 20-year career in development sector, so all my career is in the development sector. I lead multiple projects from World Bank side on economic zone development, export diversification, women entrepreneurship, value chain. There are a number of projects. But linked to that, I also lead the Startup Accelerator program being implemented by ICT Ministry. So I'm team leader for that project as well, which is, I think, is very much relevant for this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abu. Thank you so much, everyone, for the introduction. Now we can go directly to the panel discussion. So the topic is empowering impact startups, bridging gaps to build a thriving innovation ecosystems. I tried to design it in a positive tone, but the figures are not so promising, I would say. So I'll start with a very, very generic question. I'd like to share some stats as well. So almost 90% of our startups, within the first 3 to 5 years, they don't really survive. And so considering the last decade, why Bangladeshi startups struggle so much to scale their ventures. So what is the core issue? Is it a structural challenges, or is it an ecosystem problem, or a cultural effect? So I would like to ask this question to Ashfaque, if you could share your insights on this.
Thank you, Fahim, for putting me on the spot with your first question. So this is obviously the answer is quite it is quite a lengthy answer, but I'll keep it short. I think you used the word structural challenges. More deeper into it, it's a systematic challenge, and I want to start with the percentage of GDP that is used or that is invested in our education sector, which is less than 3%. This is one of the lowest in South Asia. That is one of the root causes of the problems, because when you invest less, the outcome is also of sort of that quality. More often than none, we often hear about the education quality in Bangladesh. For universities, if we talk to employers, they talk about that the universities do not exactly teach the skills that the job market requires. So there's a skills gap. So to start with, number one is the education or the investment of GDP in the education sector. Secondly, to be fair to Bangladesh, I think if we look at some of the startups that have now become unicorns now, the Microsoft, Apple, when did they start? Anyone know in the audience when was Microsoft founded? If you do not look at your mobile and can just say it? Okay. So the fact that some of the startup co-founders don't know that's a bit alarming. Around 1975, right? So Microsoft 75, Apple is around 76. If we look at it, almost a 50-year. In Bangladesh, if we look at when the startup hype really picked up, 2015, 2016, even though bKash and BrainStation is one of the flag bearers of Bangladesh tech industry that we haven't heard of, most of us. So the ecosystem is still developing. So that is to be fair to our country. The ecosystem is developing. Universities are now building innovation hubs or innovation labs. The angel investment network, the venture capitals, these are all stories of the last 5 to 10 years. So why isn't startups doing well? I think startups are okay in Bangladesh. I wouldn't necessarily give a very positive review, but just to be fair to them, given the challenges we have in our countries, from the education system to the ecosystem, if we look at the last 10 to 15 years, when the venture capital wing of the government picked up, even that was not necessarily done properly, and the competitions or the fund disbursements that were done, those were also not done in a fair and equitable and transparent manner. So to be fair to all these amazing co-founders with the great ideas they have, they're also facing headwinds to what kind of challenges they face within the ecosystem. So one is education, second is ecosystem, third, I would say let us be a bit patient, let them develop, but let us also present them lesser challenges to deal with. If we are continuing to have electoral problems, political risks, that is not a hospitable environment for startups. So if you look at the startup index, some of the countries with the largest number of startups, the US, the UK, Canada, Sweden, Singapore, and another country that I don't want to mention their name, well, Israel, let's just say it. But so these countries actually have stable governments for a historic period of time. What does that tell you? So to expect something more from the country startup is probably a bit ambitious when we haven't given them a hospitable environment. Thank you, Fahim.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for highlighting all these issues, all the challenges, especially with the point that we really have to be patient with them. I do have a follow-up question with you. It's regarding a fancy topic, impact startups. I had the privilege to travel to Sweden last year, and I visited many incubation hubs and accelerator programs, and almost 95% of the accelerator hubs, they have impact startups in their portfolio. We can't really name and put successful impact startups in Bangladesh. So my question is, what are the lessons can we draw from maybe some of the Nordic countries or any other countries, and to take inspiration from them and to implement it right here?
Thanks. Well, I slightly disagree with you, Fahim. I think startups in general are impact startups. I don't necessarily differentiate between a startup and an impact startup. Startups that are having impact at grassroots level to impact in our daily lives are startups. If we look at, do we have a successful impact startup in Bangladesh? I'm the kind of person who looks at examples first in the country, and if I don't find a good example, then I look abroad. I think bKash has done a phenomenal job. Can we really say bKash is not an impact startup when it has changed? It has subverted the MFS, the mobile financial services industry so much. It has made transactions so easy in so many parts of the country. BrainStation, I would really encourage all the young entrepreneurs over here to look up to them and see what kind of incredible impact they have. And I want to alarm you with one thing. In Bangladesh, the more we make noise, we consider that as more impact. That is a wrong way to look at it. It's the work, it's the product. And if you look at BrainStation, the reason why most of us haven't heard their names is because they don't make much noise. So I would say is that there are examples, but it's not easy. It's not easy to be a bKash. bKash has had backings of some really formidable groups or organizations. And then it still took them a bit of time to be profitable or to stand on their feet. If we look at the global trend, it's the same with Uber. They didn't become profitable overnight. If we look at Pathao, they still took some time to be profitable in Bangladesh. And even Pathao is an impact startup, given the impact it has had on the employment market of so many youth in Bangladesh, and obviously in the ride-sharing sector. So challenge-wise, I would say, to answer Fahim's question very briefly, number one is most of our startup co-founders haven't done the basic homework first. That is to really understand the market they're getting into. So that's number one, because you can only have one MFS player. You can only have one or two ride-sharing players. So whatever markets you're looking at, wherever you want to have impact, first understand the market, understand what product you have, and make the product market fit. If you don't do your homework well, then you jump into sort of the I would say the startup world, and then you start going to investors, you start going to venture capitals. Sure, I mean, you know, you can make pitches. You can make pitch. You can reach out to them, but not necessarily you would have the desired results. So to answer briefly, market product fit, market research, and understanding the market. These are the three things that you will need for any startup, be it impact or non-impact. I don't see any startup being non-impact, but impact startups in general. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Beth. Sorry to interrupt, but I would like to state that our honorable chief guest, Lieutenant General Kabir, has arrived. Thank you, sir, and welcome to the show. And apologies because I didn't actually state the figures correctly. When I meant impact startup, 95% of them, I think they're more focused on health tech. Almost 50% are focused on health tech. Almost 30% are focused on climate tech. But it's just unfortunate that we don't have success stories on these two sectors if you look at health tech, other than Prema Health or maybe some startups. But that's why I would like to bring Shahana up on this. Also, you represent an NGO, so I see a lot of NGOs like ID, Speak for Action Aid, and other NGOs as well. They're working on this green business model initiatives. They're promoting youth. A lot of climate-led innovation. So I know you also run this program, Restoration Factories. Maybe you can share a little bit how NGOs are actually developing, maybe from an IDE point of view.
I would rather say that the way NGOs are able to bring some support to the startup ecosystem is not just how IDE functions, it could be like, you know, when we started, at least when I started working in BRAC and I built the youth platform there, we had these dreams that how do we make their employability skills better so that they can perform better and build something like that. And not only just employability skills, aside to that, entrepreneurial mindset and all that stuff. So it had begun way years ago. And eventually what happened is many of the NGOs have come forward thinking that what is the biggest problem or the challenge on a very root level a startup faces. That is, they don't have proper access for testing, access to users for testing. In order to do that, it's pretty costly, and they can't afford going around region to region doing that stuff. So that was one of the steps where NGO placed their hand for them, is that we have a very big base of grassroots population. We have been working in programs where we have been trying to provide support to those grassroots population. But how about you leverage this data, this pool that we have for your testing? Now, when we talk about climate, and these things have just recently started in Bangladesh, but it has been an issue from quite a long time. But now at this stage, climate adaptability is a mandate for any startup that you work on because of the SDG goals and the other mandates that we have. But in order to do that, these startups need to go around into the regions. So we take them with us when they partner with us. We give them our base of beneficiaries to test whatever kind of solutions they're trying to provide. For us, we understand that if you can serve one of those beneficiaries who does not have money but who is in pain, that means you can provide the solution to anywhere else, be it urban, peri-urban, wherever you want to go. Now come to IDE perspective. What happens here? So one of the biggest expert area for IDE is in this country, at least in Bangladesh. IDE started its journey with Bangladesh. In fact, our founder body and everyone there, they are US based, but they started this whole journey 40 years ago in Bangladesh, and it went around many other countries. And the expert area is market systems development. So when I was not working in this sector, but when I was working with various other projects where market system development was a component, at that time itself we used to think that when these startups are designing their operational plans, when they're designing their go-to-market plans, when they're designing a lot of thick strategies, do they have any knowledge about what is an MSD? What is a value chain? Who do you serve? Who are your market actors? Unless you know these technicalities, what are you going to end up doing? You're not so lucky like the global other countries. You are unfortunately unlucky of having the right capacity or the platforms to have the right capacity. And also to be able to know that so-and-so place, so-and-so institute provides so-and-so capacity. So ultimately what happens is they just build an idea, they just innovate an idea, and then they think of themselves and some framework starts working around it, but it's not structured. And which is why down the line in 2 to 3 years they become frustrated because the main things were not addressed. And that's how IDE has been trying to build that kind of a platform, that kind of a service, that kind of an access to services or knowledge capacity to the rurals or to the, I would say, regional youths who want to become entrepreneurs. We facilitate entrepreneurship, we facilitate these models, how an enterprise is made. What is a social enterprise and what is a social business? Do you know the difference? You don't. So how do we make you know that? Now when I was talking to a lot of our startups who will pitch here, I kept on asking, which number prototype is this? They could not answer. So that knowledge that there has to be a certain number of prototypes, then you pick the most minimal viable one, and then you go to the market and eventually grow. That knowledge is missing. How? Why? 2014 থেকে তো কাজ করতেছি আমরা। এতদিনও এখনো ওরা কেন জানে না? That's a question that keeps clicking me like, what's wrong? What's wrong with this ecosystem? What are we not doing right? At this age, after 10 years, if I'm still able, like I mean, 14 জিজ্ঞেস করতাম, I understood, they didn't know. I had to literally get myself trained in design thinking, innovation, so that I could give proper mentoring. But ওরা এখনো 10 বছর পরে এসে জানে না এটা কি। তাহলে আমরা কোথায় কি করিনি? So now when I work with Restoration Factory, we took this initiative from UNEP that we are going to provide a very technical incubation training to 50 green enterprises. They may be in their first year or they may be in their 5th year, but we will provide the training to them so that you understand that entire process, that your product that you've come in with, how much is it viable to the market that you want to sell? Do you know your market? Do you know the partners that you want to work with? Who are you selling it? How do you identify it? All these things, and we see when they're coming, like I think we ran around 2 to 3 modules, and we're seeing that they are now reflecting, oh my god, I never did this baseline research, I don't have the data. User testing, I need to test my prototypes, I've never done that. Should I start now? Yes, there's never a bad time to start it. So these are the ways we have been trying to collaborate, like de-risking innovation. And then we say that how we can integrate kind of innovation models. You don't have research and development, we call it R&D labs anywhere. Hardly a few universities have. Why? Now say Samsung, say Nokia, say many other big organizations are working in our country, but have they opened up any such R&D lab for these? Where are they investing? Are they only coming to sell? Are we only being bought? So these are the questions we put forward. And so NGOs are trying to come up with, like Bracker's Frugal. Yeah, we are trying to build our own innovation platforms. There are many others such coming. But then again, so many innovations, I mean, what do you call that? Incubators, so many accelerators, ভাসিয়ে ফেলে চলে, এত ট্রেনিং ইনস্টিটিউটস, এত ইনকিউবেটরস, এত অ্যাক্সিলারেটরস, কিন্তু কেউ অ্যাক্সিলারেট হয় না। কি করে সবাই? সবাই খালি এইসব জায়গায় যায়, পার্টিসিপেট করে ফর ওয়ান সিঙ্গল থিং। যে ভাইয়া বলছিল যে মানি মাইন্ডেড, all I want is money, all I want is fund, all I want is investment. I don't care if I have really worked towards building my product that can be sold. All I'm thinking about is I need money. Now say I've gone to one particular, sorry for taking the time, but it's necessary to know, like I've pitched in one of the incubators. I maybe luckily received $1 lakh, something like that. Where did I spend it? How did I use this investment? In which segment did I do? Did I do it for marketing? Did I do it for my operational? Did I do it for my financing? Where did I do it? They don't know. Then comes আবার আরেকটা কোনো একটা ইনকিউবেটর ওপেনিং আসলো, অ্যাপ্লিকেশন ওপেন আসলো, ওইখানে অ্যাপ্লাই করলো। গণ খালি ইনকিউবেটরসে অ্যাপ্লাই করে যাচ্ছে কেন? তার খালি সিড মানি লাগবে। তোমার কয়টা সিড মানি লাগবে? তুমি যে প্রথম সিড মানিটা পাইছো, ওইটার এখন রিটার্নটা কোন জায়গায় আসছে সেটা বলতে পারতেছো না। Yeah, it's good that you need a pool of investment money to be made.
Don't the investors check?
They may check, maybe now, I doubt that. Because if they check, then these things wouldn't have been repeated.
There's supposed to be a due diligence process, right?
Yeah, they say they do, but how diligent is it? I feel confused, you know why? Because if you keep seeing the same problem coming again and again, then they're not doing it rightly. কিছু একটা করছে না. Similarly, does anyone understand what is pre-acceleration? They just go into the accelerator models and start pitching there. Do you know what is pre-acceleration? Did you reach there? A startup becomes a company after 5 years. So during the 5 years, if you could not transform into a company, that means you have failed. That means the products or solutions that you are making needs to be readdressed, revisited. Where did you go wrong? Eventually by 10th year, you should be able to have like a group of company entity, a small little group of companies somewhere over there. But a roadmap ta kore niye agate hoy. So that's where we are trying to help from the NGO side, that if we can give them a blended understanding. And lastly, most important, get thorough with access to finance opportunities. Banks, we are trying, from NGO sides, we are really trying our level best to make the banking system, the access to finance system more adaptive and inclusive to enable these startups, especially the green startups who are still, like, you know, very young. They're just blooming like this now. At this stage, ওনাদেরকে যদি ওই সাপোর্টটা আমরা প্রোভাইড করে দিতে পারি, despite knowing the barriers, the non-bankable thing, this and that and all, but how do we address that? 10 বছর পরেও এখনো non-bankable. কি করিনি? Figure that out. So the banks, the Bangladesh Bank has to work on it, the other banks have to work on it, the MSMEs, the other things, we reconnect all of these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abu. I would like to Asif. So I'll jump straight to the point. So our education sector, how can we provide a better ecosystem for the youth and startups and improve their success rates?
I think Ashfaque touched education a little bit. But to the Zenzias over there, sitting over there, I have full empathy for you. Don't feel like that there's a group of kind of Gen X people sitting here or millennials and giving you like knowledge from the top. I fully understand where the problem starts, and I have full empathy, because to other words, let me speak a little bit. To other words, even I wonder whether I would have come here and be able to present that. So kudos to all of you, the fact that you've been doing that. Now the issue is that the point that Ashfaque raised, and Ichuta we can take with Ashfaque, startup should be different. It's not like an entrepreneurship and business. So the first thing that you need to do is understand the difference between the business, entrepreneurship and startup. And a startup can be an enterprise later on. In the startup, your main digital set, it starts from solving the problem. You are so obsessed with solving a certain problem and then make it a commercially viable thing. And that's why a lot of the startup doesn't see the success. Now the issue is, to solve a problem you need curiosity and you need to ask critical questions. So I did a study last year on behalf of an international development organization. I'm not supposed to tell the name. The Bangladeshi managerদের সাথে mid-level managers সাথে expat mid-level managerদের তফাৎ কি, because there are 600,000 expat managers working in Bangladesh. And one of the number one factor that came in is lack of curiosity. And curiosity থাকবে কোথাতে? Curiosity তো নষ্ট হয় একদম বাসা থেকে, 4 বছর বয়স থেকে। You're not supposed to ask questions. And then school and then university. So the whole education system and the whole process that we take at the university level to develop entrepreneurial mindset and startup and everything. When 12 years of education, we constantly discourage and humiliate entrepreneurship as a kind of a profession, and then suddenly you try to make entrepreneur in the last 4 years, it's impossible. I mean, it's সম্ভবই না 12 বছর একটা ছেলেকে ব্যবসা খারাপ শিখায়, and you see them how to be an entrepreneur, doctor and engineer and this and that, and then you suddenly try to tell him to be an entrepreneur. It's not possible. They're discouraged by the family, they're discouraged by the school teachers. You are not trained to be curious and problem solvers and problem identifiers. So it's not going to happen. That's one. And the second thing that when you have some empathy for the people that you're solving the problem. And similarly, the way I can see you now from the top, because I have got 2 teenagers of your age, and I teach probably 500 every year. Our empathy has only সময় লেগেছে. Basically, post-COVID, I try to understand better. Why is the generation diversity taking us? Because they're not the same people. We have a lot of difference. So finally, the problem is the education system. Our university-based incubation and university-based education system is not actually ready to create startup. It will probably take far skills. Higher education and often skills there, higher education and learning agility there. The skills want to change rapidly. Whether we are teaching them on how to learn and the love of learning, that is a key thing so that they can grow up. Third thing, I think the ethical perspective of higher education completely missing. When all business program, international business program, I can go ethics course. I can guarantee that there's no MBA program in Bangladesh teach ethics separately, and I've gone through all the syllabus. So I think these are the things, and we product innovation করার জন্য যে ল্যাবটা আমার মনে হয় একমাত্র আমাদের কৃষি বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় বাদে আর কারোর কাছে নেই। মানে এগ্রি ইউনিভার্সিটি কিছুটা আছে।
But কিছু যে fab labটা কি কতগুলো
I went to see each one of them. They just don't have the requirement of machines and everything.
The 3D machines and all stuff.
Only basic it's a huge investment that is there. And software university itself is not entrepreneurial mindset. So you cannot train entrepreneurs without entrepreneurial mindset.
But then again, this education lacking or the barriers from the family side, যেটা থেকে upbringing এর যে প্রবলেমটা, আমাদের পাশের দেশও কিন্তু similar scenarios. India.
Sorry to interrupt. If you could speak in English because now we have some few.
All right. So when we see even our neighboring country, India, we are not comparing to the size of it, but the mindset. They also have this educational barrier issue, the mindset issue, low mindset, but they also still have good ones.
Let me answer this and then I'll end that. The Y incubator is an online-based incubation. That is one of the best and the biggest incubation centers in the world, but completely provide online-based. What Apu said, and I kind of, let me disagree with you a little bit. I've seen India is a multicultural, multi-diversified place. India, if you talk about the other parts of it, so the day they are born, they know that they have to move to a separate state to work and to probably find jobs, so that they get ready to do that from the day one. And that entrepreneurial mind is always there. They're so culturally diversified and everything. That's number one. Last 10 years, India's education system has gone down, but think about it. Jawaharlal Nehru established IIT and IIM back in 1950s, 59 and 61. That was the vision that they had. And so they were ready for it for a long time, the way the education system. IIM being it's a government business school, it's one of the top business schools that were there. So that's how they maintain the integrity of education and the quality of education at such a high level. We couldn't match it.
Well, I agree to that because my education background is Indian, and I have studied with Indian systems and I've been brought up with them, and I know that when education system comes, nothing interferes there. No political, nothing interferes. Everything. I graduated at 21st, and when I was 21-year-old, I joined job when I was 21.5-year-old. It was like straight off. We never wasted time. And yes, but still, I still will go back to that point where you said curiosity. That is one thing big time missing in any generation that we have been having. I swear, if you're curious enough, you will find the problem solutions and you will reach that point, but you have to be really curious about
Last point, we're not trained to ask questions. We are not encouraged to ask questions, and we are not rewarded to ask questions. Unless and until you are allowed to ask questions, you'll never be in a startup and an entrepreneurial ecosystem. It's virtually impossible. Because একদম childhood থেকে শুরু করে আমার ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকে I'm the graduate program director, I get complaint from students. Within school professor, they don't like questions. Whereas if I go to any Western university, even আপনি টিচারটা দাঁড়াতে পারেন না, basically the amount of questions that the student ask. So yeah, unless you have the questioning mindset, you'll never be able to solve problem. If you cannot identify problem, there's no startup ecosystem. That's
Thank you so much, Brad, for on that. I'll go to the next segment, and it's about patent and law regulation. It's a very big topic because a lot of other startups, they require help, especially our startups. Some of the startups listed in our portfolio keep on asking how can we get this patent, because someone can really copy us in a couple of days. Yeah. So is there any regulation? So maybe you can shed a little bit of light on biological perspective.
Of course, there's laws and regulations, but the problem with this is we have laws about everything, but implementation of that law is very poor. We have laws about how to treat the stray dogs in our streets. We do, but এটা আমরা কয়জন জানি? Patent, this is part of intellectual property under the body, trademark, copyright, patent. Then there's industrial design. Then there's trade secrets. So you have to understand the difference. What's your need? If you are talking about patent, that means it has to be unique. It has to be something that does not exist anywhere. You actually have thought of this from inception till now, because the application process for a patent is the most lengthiest, and actually our relevant regulatory bodies don't know how to handle patent applications. So when you submit it, they say, "Oh, patent na kore just copyright kore den." I think for now that will be easier. So we're like, okay, we need some sort of protection, because if you're not registered either as a copyright or patent, you don't get any legal remedy. Even if somebody copies it, you have proof that you were the first one to come up with that idea, you will not get any legal recourse. So it's just not us. I think from the regulatory standpoint also, whenever they come up with new laws and regulations, it is their responsibility to make awareness sessions about these. What's the process? আমরা বলছি আমরা ডিজিটাল হয়ে গেছি, অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতে হবে অনলাইন, বাট রিয়েলি ইট ডাজন্ট হ্যাপেন. You apply online, then again you print out that set and then go to the office. So basically online they're making you work twice. And as we know, these patent applications, they take forever to come. But তারপর আমাদের অ্যাপ্লাই করতে হবে। আরেকটা রিস্ক যেটা দেখা যায়, আমরা ভাবছি যে আমার এটা পেটেন্ট, এটা এক্সক্লুসিভ, এটার ব্যাপারে কেউ জানে না, কপি করবে, বাট অনেক ইনফরমেশন আসলে ফ্রম দ্যাট অফিস লিক হয়ে যায়। সো আমাদের কাছে কোনো when we go to corporate offices to এখন আমরা বলছি যে ডিজিটাল স্টার্টআপস, ওদের ওয়েবসাইট, অ্যাপ্লিকেশনস, সফটওয়্যারস আমরা কপিরাইট করবো। এখন কপিরাইট করতে গেলে আপনি সোর্স কোড দেন। So when you share the source code is something that is very unique to your belief. So এখন আমার regulatory body আমার source code দিতে হবে to show them that I have created it, but they cannot guarantee whether this will not be leaked or go anywhere. So there is that gap. So আমরা এক পা আগাই তো দুই পা পিছাই. So a lot of things we do to industrial design act. Actually 2023 has been a good year. Copyright Act 2023 was there. We had the new Industrial Design Act which says basically এই যে একটা কাপ, কফি, এই যে প্যাকেজিং যেটা আমরা করছি, প্লাস্টিক ইউজ করছি, পেপারটা ইউজ করছি, যে ডিজাইন, কালার, so all that actually later on becomes your brand. So if you have something similar that already exists in the market, it will create confusion among the customers. যে আমি কোনটা করছি, গ্রামীণ ফোনের এই সবুজ that leaf, if it's everywhere, then they will not know whether it's actually a telco or something else. Because আমাদের একটা মাইন্ডসেটের সাথে ঢুকে যায় যে একটা ব্র্যান্ডিং একটা লোগো দেখলে যে what product or service this is. So these kind of awareness না থাকাতে I personally tried to make several patent applications, but got pushback from the regulators saying এটা আমাদের এখানে দেরি হবে আপনি যদি actually চান copyright করেন. So we were like, okay, hoping that one day very soon they will gear up. And another question আমার কাছে সব startups বলে যে আপু আমি খালি বাংলাদেশে না, because my product is a bit advanced. So it's not for maybe Bangladeshi market might not be a good fit, but US market will be a good fit. So I need a IP production globally. However, আমাদের WIPO আছে World Intellectual IP forum. ওখানেও lot of countries have our signatory. Bangladesh is not a signatory. এখন আমি চাইলেও আমি গ্লোবালটা পাবো না, but what I tell them is either way, if you want to global protection, you first have to register in your local host country. বাংলাদেশে আগে register করে 1 বছর পরে you can at least apply to get intellectual property protections globally. And because আমরা এখন এই যে একটা ওয়েবসাইট ক্লিক করলেই সব ছবি এখন চলে যাচ্ছে, আমার ট্রেডমার্ক আমার যে পাঞ্চ লাইন এগুলো অনেক কপি হয়ে যায়, and that is when যে তখন কাউন্টারফিট প্রোডাক্টস চলে আসে, ফেক কোনটা রিয়েল কোনটা, এটা অনেক বেশি ফ্যাক্টর করে when we talk about health techs, medicines, এগুলো যে এত আমরা দেখি যে অনেক নকল বার হয়ে যাচ্ছে. So I don't know which one's real or not. So lot of I think এটা কারো একজনকে আসলে রেসপন্সিবিলিটি ব্লেম করা বল না, right? I think it's a joint effort. Just our government একা আসলে পারবে না. So we kind of have to come up and partner and do these kind of awareness sessions and educate them.
Isn't there like one thing, like when we go for patent, I'm not sure, like if these are innovations, these are not inventions. So innovations vary demography to demography. The same right share there and here will be the same, but it will have something different because of my demographic modality. Now, if in the patent we mention a USP which is not similar to the other ones, then will I not be able to get that?
Like I said, first jurisdiction নিতেই হবে. You cannot move forward without that.
So sorry, we are going a little bit over time. I'd like to move to the final section. Sorry, we want to get to the pages quickly. I have a quick question to Sumi regarding the investment scenario in our country. So one of the common challenges in our early stage investment startup space is that they get this kind of deals like 50 lakh, but they have to give away like half of their equity. Right, I mean they're facing this kind of an issue, so it's very important to build a good relation between the investors and of course the founders as well. So how can we actually bridge that gap?
Thank you. I won't take much time. I will just share a couple of thoughts on this. So one thing is on the startups, like when they start their ideation and then they go for like preparing their business and then go for pre-seed. One of the expectation from the startups are that someone will be funding them. But when it is in the pre-seed stage or seed stage, you have to understand the equity investors. They will look for, if you have established business, if they need to see the rate of return, they need to see the business sense. At the pre-seed stage or seed stage, it's very difficult for the investors to see that. So that's one perception problem from the startup's point of view. You have to understand from the funder's point of view, like what actually they are looking at. When you are going for commercialization, you have already tested your product or your business, there is positive response, then you will see some of the investors getting interested. And then actually it comes into the, like they come into the game. Again, because of the question that you asked about like 50% giving away for the equity. So it also depends on the risk factor, right? A risk factor of the business. Since the startup ecosystem is still in nascent stage, though we have started to talk about this for the last probably more than 10 years, but still it's nascent, it's still nascent. So it will take time for that system to get established. Another thing that just from my organization point of view I would like to share, because I lead one of the projects on Startup Accelerator. So we have actually two programs that we are implementing right now. One is the Startup Accelerator program, as I mentioned, so where we are working with 1,000 startups to help them build their business from the pre-seed to stage. So whatever stage they are, we want to push them to the 1 or 2 step next. So there are like accelerator program around that, and we have a very dedicated program of linking them with the investors, like venture capital, equity investors, so linking them how we can make this thing. Now for the investor, we know like even the venture capital market is not that strong here. So it will take time. And when startups go for investors from the foreign countries, again, they also don't know what is there, what is here in our country. And as from the previous discussion, we are clear that we have only handful of successful startups. So investors, we cannot also expect that investors will just pour in money here right at this moment. It will take time. It will take a lot of time, a lot of effort. Now from the development point of view, there are a lot of development agencies working on that. We have another program which we call University Innovation Hub. Right now we are working with 10 universities to establish this innovation lab in their universities, and then helping the fresh graduates or to-be graduates, like their final year. So help them in their entrepreneurial journey, help them to think, like the point that we mentioned, that thinking through the innovative mindset, asking questions. So those labs are not really very high-tech like with all this equipment, but it will give them opportunity to ask questions, to network with similar kind of people, to network with the current startups, to gain knowledge, to understand like how things work. Another point just want to highlight, since we have a couple of startups here, startups is kind of like a fancy word. We start business, we name it startup. Not all businesses are startup. So we like to call it, I'm a CEO of a startup, but as Sir mentioned, and a couple of speakers mentioned, startup needs to really identify the problem in the market, have a solution that can multiply couple of folds in very short period of time. This is something we forget. At least startups when they are coming, so because it's a very fancy word, young people, Mark Zuckerberg, something I need to do. So that needs to really, that narrative needs to change. The startup is not like something fancy, you come and you just have some speech and pitch in like English and you get it up. I have seen startups who are mechanics of motor cars. They can't even speak English, they don't understand English, but excellent startup model, excellent. So that is something like we need to really grab in the front. And as I mentioned, from the development agency point of view, a couple of development agencies are working on it. It needs coordination. There are sporadic efforts happening. There need to be somewhere we need to really coordinate within ourselves. I'll stop here.
Oh, thank you so much.
Just one more question. The innovation labs that you're talking about, why can't we have them equipped? Why can't we have enough equipments? Because I keep hearing these kids keep on coming telling that we don't have any place where we have access to equipments, we don't have access to resources. Things that can help me build something. Why am I having to build from a plastic bottle? Why do I have to deal with buying wires from here and there and attaching with a scotch tape? Why can't I go beyond? Like in international markets, when they innovate, even a kid makes something in the house, it looks good. Why can't our machines look good? Why does it look like like they should stay patched up with scotch tape? So we need equipments. Why can't we have that?
No, I'm not saying like it is not equipped. I'm saying it is equipped based on the need. It's not like we have this problem in Bangladesh. We build the building, we equip it with equipment, there's no one to use it. And then at one point, it's just obsolete. We have like waste of resources. So what I said that there are equipments definitely. Not all the labs are very high tech. but it will take like different time frame. When there is need, there can be investment, and that investment needs to come from the private sector. I won't suggest that universities or government investing a lot on this. It will be very much need-based. If we look into the models in Malaysia, there are a lot of private sector investing, working with universities and investing in these labs, because they know what are the latest technology. They know that this is the coming up technology. They partner with universities, they invest in those machines, and then get those students and other people equipped to that.
Thank you so much. I actually prepared a lot of questions. I only get to ask half of them. But we actually have to. And my sincere apologies to the audience as well. And I'm sure that you have a lot of other questions as well. But due to lack of time, I think we have to go to the next segment. So thank you so much, and apologies if I cut you off during your one. Really sorry for that. But thank you so much for sharing all your insights and your feedback, and really appreciate that. And we've taken notes as well. And thank you so much. And we'll.
Maybe you can tell them like if later on they have questions.
Yes, if you have any questions, because after that we're going to have a showcase, so yeah, of course they can network. But we need to move on to the next section. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to all the panelists.